So I had a really good family, loving family, mother and father provided. I was a fair big family, man. It was like I had 3 brothers, 2 sisters. My mum had a boy with her first partner, and my dad had a daughter with his obviously first partner. And they come together and they had me and 2 of my brothers, and they had my little sister. And it was like family wise, it was I couldn't have faulted it, you know. You can get so caught up. That's in my mum and dad for the hippie era, that, like, you know, that life and soul. They liked a little party, but there was nothing really that sticks out, that's significant, that would have impacted on any trauma that's led on through my path, you know. There was always food, you know. They done their best by us. They struggled, you know. We weren't completely well off, but we weren't poor, you know. They done their best by us. I suppose like what childhood wise, I just, like, I don't know. I was just like, I think I could get caught up in thinking about what was different and why was it the path that I took, you know. But I just like to always be the life and soul and the cool kid, and for the get-go in my childhood, that's what it was like, you know. I was probably attracted to all the friendship groups, and then always try to stick out, and, you know, I don't know, like being a thrill seeker, I suppose, you know. And again, before substances come about, this is like early childhood. It was like always on a buzz, climbing high trees and going adventures where I probably shouldn't have been, and gone in when I should a wee bit later, and but that was my sort of early childhood. I was brought up in like a small town. It's one of the, I would say one of the towns where it's very small. Everybody knows everything, knows everybody. At the time you're oblivious to it, but then you think back, like, to what I was getting up to and the things I was doing. I was probably the talk of the town, you know. And for what I see now, it's like people add bits up, make their own minds up, you know, and make a guess of what's going on and in the households and that. But that would have been so far from what actually, do you know, because it was, as I say, I couldn't have faulted my family upbringing. I really couldn't have. Really close-knit family. We were always affectionate to each other. It's always been like that to this day. We're all very close. And I see some families, I know all families are like that, you know. We're always kissing and cuddling, and it's been like that. So yeah, our upbringing was good. I would definitely say it was probably just, as I say, just being a bit boisterous, you know. And then I think what come with that was being boisterous. You're known like that, aren't you? And then it's like you pursue that, and I think it was just written that's what I was doing, and that's who I was, and it wasn't. I think back even now to how I know it now, and there wasn't any bad stuff. I wasn't like a bully, or, you know, I didn't do any stuff that I regret, and now I'm sort of like, at the early stages, I was just rough and ready, you know, like a boy's day, and yeah, that was sort of my, like, childhood. From my understanding now, you know, there is cases where people and that get caught up in addiction that may have had something traumatic happen within their childhood, but that wasn't my story, you know. I didn't have anything that was traumatic in my childhood. I suppose you could think and get really caught up and over analysing it. Did I feel different? Because, as I say, I'm not saying we weren't poor. We did have everything that was the basics and the essentials, but there was other kids that had a lot more because they were from wealthier backgrounds. Did I feel separate and different for them? I don't know, it didn't stand out back then in my upbringing, and I didn't like think about that as if I was someone different because of the people I gravitated towards. I didn't gravitate towards them people. I think because they were sticking to the rules and not really doing the boisterous boys things with what I was doing in my childhood. And I could almost go back to say that I wouldn't change anything, and I loved it. I had a good childhood, you know. I had good experiences, and I done the things that I feel that maybe kids should do, you know, like that was sort of my childhood, I would say. That was my first ever experience. Anything that kind of altered your moods, you know, with any sort of illicit drugs, alcohol. I class it all sort of under the same umbrella. But it was like people drinking, you know, you'd pocket money, you know, because we're at that age. And you'd get that crowd hanging about outside the shops. Oh, can you go and get me a drink? Or you would get a group of yous, you know, other boisterous boys, and you would be like chipping in for an eighth, you know, when soap bar was on the bucket load, you know, like, and that was my first experiences with anything that I put in me, you know, and it was great, you know, it was fun. It was the experimental stages, you know. And it was just a whole buzz that went everything with it. Like, because for one, you were doing something you shouldn't have done because of your age. You know, this was really young. You know, I was probably at the tail end of primary school, and I think we move over to high school in Scotland at about I can't, but it's early teens, very early teens. But yeah, so you're doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing, and then it's gone and it's gone to the park, and it's like that unity, you know, like with the buzz, and everybody's like hanging out, and yeah, that was my first experience. And then but I remember, it sticks out to me, right? I was different, and I do recognise being different, because even at that stage, you'd have us on, it would be special red, and it would be like, but with cider that's never seen an apple in its life, you know, and you'd get my mates' kids, and they'd drink half the bottle and they'd be sick, you know, and they couldn't finish it, but me, I would be like drinking it through straws, or holding it up and spinning round in a circle while I'm drinking it, because I was always trying to get more. You know, like, it wasn't just enough to drink it like normal and get the effects of the alcohol. I wanted to take it to the extreme. I definitely recognise that I was different. I stood out different for the kids, you know, like or that my other peer and my other mates that were doing it, experimenting at the same time as me, even with the bit of weed that we chipped in with. You know, I'd be the one that learnt how to roll the joints, and I'd be front loading the tops, and I'd be back loading the back. Just greediness, cause wanting more of it. And pretty quickly it went on to then affect, and at the time I didn't realise it at all, but the consequences came with that was it got in the way of my education, because then I lost interest, because I was more interested on getting to the weekend. Like, it wasn't everyday use for the get-go. I wasn't one of these people that were like, yeah, I need this every day, but I become consumed about planning for the weekends, and what are we doing this weekend, and who's got what, and then it was maybe having an odd spliff through the week rather than just the weekend, and the interest, lack of interest, and attention span in school on getting the important stuff that I know now that I didn't know at the time went out the window, because it all came about that. I've not went into detail, but obviously I followed a path then, because as I say, it neglected the end of my primary school and my attention span, and where it went into high school, where I didn't even complete high school. I didn't do my exams, and I was treated different, you know, because of how sometimes, well, how kids like myself can get managed by authorities. I didn't know this at the time, but just thinking back, you know, because I wasn't up to scratch with school attendance, I had special things in place that I was taken out of normal mainstream and given support and learning support teacher that it was different for other kids. I got suspended and expelled because they couldn't, they deemed me as being behavioural, and they couldn't manage my behaviour because of how I become. And then with that triggers mechanism again. I didn't know this. Well, I'm not talking like I knew this at the time, but it triggers mechanisms when it's like social service involvement and stuff like that. And as I say, they couldn't find anything, because I really did have there was nothing behind the scenes where it was. So when they got involved and they come and done what they done, they never found anything but a loving home, a loving mum, a loving dad that wanted their best and tried to discipline me to the best of their ability. And I do remember this, like, they used to try and tell my mum and dad that just tell us that he's out of your control. Again, I didn't know at the time, but they didn't, because obviously like they done their best, and it was just some of the choices I was making, but they just never gave up, I suppose, you know. And because if they had said that I was out of their control, that might have been totally different. I might have went down the path of being in care homes and taken away out of the family home. But I remember this stuff. No, I remember the stuff with the professionals or the supports that were involved at these stages in my life, on how I was treated different and how I was managed different. And again, that impacted on me, do you know, like. And then in some of the people I was hanging about with, it's like oh, it's cool, oh, you know, it's like he's not in the main school now, and I'm talking. I went on to other schools that were like set up for to manage kids that are a bit of trouble in mainstream, and you know, and then it comes with sort of like a bit of a reputation, and then you're following a crowd who hold a respect for you, and you mean something, you're valued for the wrong reasons, that is. But I really see that, and how that paved my path. It just spiraled and spiraled and spiraled. Experimentation with the first experiences of drinking and smoking a bit of cannabis, then went to tablets and other drugs, party drugs and different scenes. And then I found, I suppose, what you class as the downers, you know. I just didn't like. I done quite a bit of the scene of the party and the buzz and the MDMA and the Eckies, the coke, the speed. But for me, it wasn't a bit of me, you know. It wasn't. It was good and it was fun, but when I found the downer, you know, the stone, you know, in Scotland, I was like, well, obviously for Scotland, and there was a big scene on down, what you call downer medication, but these were all pharmaceutical drugs that were discovered when you take more than the recommended dose. With a hot cup of tea and a couple of joints, you're in a land of, like, Comfortably Numb. If you've ever listened to Pink Floyd, Comfortably Numb, it probably describes it to a T. And it was just like, that was it, you know. I found that, and then that was it, you know. I really become consumed And then for what went to planning and socialising, deemed as recreational drug use, as it could be titled, went to no recreational drug use, and it was like, who's got this, who's got that, and then my life become very quickly on where I could get as much of that as possible, how can I fund that, you know, and the consequences lead for there, you know, like, I think you can go detailed graphic as you like, but I did have to kind of go committing crime, you know, theft, and to fund that addiction, and it really did spiral. I'll go back to my family and my upbringing, and no my upbringing, but the support I had for my family, and I think there was a bit of like trouble with debts and stuff, and there was an option to kind of sell up the family home where we were in this small town, and then move away from there into Edinburgh, like marry a bigger city, you know, not too small and exclusive, and that's what they've done, and I think to give me a chance as well, because they'd seen the path and the people I was mixing with. But I think for what I know now, it was probably too late, and for what I know about addiction as well, it's like, once you got that taste and once you know that experience, you can search and seek it out anywhere you go. And then when we've moved and relocated out of that small thing, as I say, it opened it up, and to another crowd, to other drugs, you know, because it wasn't easy sometimes, you know, with these pharmaceutical. You needed to, I suppose it was like, there was a group of yous and you knew who was getting what, and they were all on prescriptions, and then it become, well, I'll give you some of them and you're getting them on that date and that date. When you're away for that, it's like, to replace that, it's no easy. So then you do turn to the things that were probably all widely available, you know, that weren't on the regular prescription dates where they were getting them for the pharmacy, and it went to the harder stuff, and that's when I first experienced, you know, heroin, and the one thing that sticks out as well is, like, I remember first starting out and probably having a major problem, but separating yourself and being actually not that bad. And believe you me, it got bad, you know. I was just so consumed but by that drug, that it was crazy on what I'd done and how I thought about myself. I didn't care, absolutely didn't care. A family that loved me, and I mean sincerely loved me, I'd look them in the eye and I'd apologise in the moment, because I loved doing that, and I promised I'd never do it again, but getting up in the morning and doing the exact same thing, taking the last that your mum had in her purse, you know, like robbing her house and then telling, oh, somebody's come and robbed the house, but it was blatantly you that done it. Becoming a compulsive liar, just to get that drug that made you feel, that maybe took it away, like, you know, because when you were so numb on the substance, you had to actually look at yourself, you had to feel probably how you felt about yourself, and it wasn't nice, but then you would get more and it would just take it away, and again it was in that repeated cycle, and again come with loads of consequences, you know, because I come a horrific shoplifter, because you've got to fund it some way, you know, and then out of prison, and again just living up to the expectations. I don't know if it was expectations, I was part of something, man. I was respected within that world, and I looked in the world outside and I didn't have a place, you know, I didn't have a place because I wouldn't have been respected. I was uneducated, I was told by authorities that I was a certain person that needed to be managed differently, you know. So I fitted in with them people, you know. It was like an element of a written rule and a respect, and that was my life. That was my life. What was significant were the moments I had with my family, you know, that they had deep, meaningful, empathetic chats, because they never ever washed their hands of me. And then we would sit down and they would kind of try and point my problem out, and I would identify with it, you know. And it would get tearful and it would get emotional, but then I just didn't know how to change it, you know. Any thoughts of trying to change just became too, no way, like, you know. Like this is what I know. How would I change that? Yeah. So, and then again, I went through doing the channels, the setups, prescriptions, and then I'm on a prescription age, you know, where I'm having to go to the chemist, I'm having to go to services and pissing pots, and, you know, I was told I had a problem long before I realised I did have a problem. And I think where I realised I did have a problem was through the family, through the family interventions. And I don't know if it's because I had my back up against authorities and the people that tried to tell me I had a problem for such an early age. But I wouldn't. I could have it for my family, you know, because I know that they were with me side, like, you know, I got the love for them no matter what. So I suppose that was when I realised I had the problem, when I started to really affect my family, because obviously with the way I become towards the end, and I was in that for a long time, you know, the worry and the bags and the greyness that I could see in my mum's face sometimes, you know. It's no fair for any mother to come and visit their son in prison or be worried about getting a phone call, you know, like, and so then that's definitely when I think I realised I had the problem, on the impact that when I actually started to really see the impact it was having on my family who stuck by me. Being caught up in it, and then like realising I had a problem, and then obviously the question does come up: what would change, and how do you change, and I suppose obviously when I raised it for my family, I did start reaching out for support, and then I got involved a bit more than just a script, because I was like, as I say, I went along for the script. It was for free drugs. Who's not going to get free drugs? But there was never really any meaningful change. But then I started to access some of these services, you know, rather than just going and collecting my script and pissing in a pot, and try to really get involved on what was on offer. And there was some really good workers back then, you know, that cared. I said that like there's no good workers now, but I just, like, you know, and cared, and I suppose tried to kind of plant these seeds and motivate me for change, and I took them up on some of the offers that had been getting offered to me for years and years, but they fell on deaf ears. By me doing this, by taking in off of the groups, I started to get a little bit of stability, you know. I stopped reducing a little bit and started to kind of hang out a motivation, and I did try many ways, you know. I didn't get recovery right away, you know. That wasn't my story. It took a good few attempts at different ways of recovery. I tried day programs, where I would go to a day structured program, and I'd go home in the evening. I went to these crisis centres where I was brought up. They had a crisis centre that was mixed between detoxes and crisis. What I mean by crisis is they would put you in there when you were that chaotic, stabilise you, on replacement drugs, obviously a substitute to what I was addicted to. I.e. that's like obviously methadone programs and Subutex programs, and they would stabilise you, give you respite, and you'd go back into the community to then get engaged in the group. I think I must have done that about 10 times, you know, getting mixed up in all the wrong stuff, bringing stuff over and into the place, doing the day programs, and then I got an opportunity to kind of go for residential. I think it was one of my last stunts in in that crisis centre, and I got the chance to go for funding and go for residential treatment, and I remember it was amazing, because it was like the funders were like showing me these catalogues and travelling me down south. I'd never been out of Scotland to go on day visits to some of these residential places, and it was really like, it was inspirational, you know, because I went to and visited these places, and I seen people that were similar to probably what I was gravitating towards, but they were like talking all this positive recovery stuff, man, and it was, I'm not going to deny it, it was capturing, man, it captured me. And that's what I'd done. I'd followed a structured programme on the community and evidence that the motivation and stuff like that, and also that community wasn't I couldn't get it in the community. You know, I could get so far, but I wouldn't be able to completely. So yeah, I got funding, and off I went. Off I went to residential. I was meant to actually come. I was meant to come down south, and I went. They sent me somewhere else for the detox part first, obviously because of how funding works, and it was probably cheaper. So they sent me to this other place in Glasgow, and when I went to this place in Glasgow, I knew I was coming down south, and I went down here, and I thought, I want to stay here, you know. So I sort of I convinced my funders to transfer my funding over to just remain in Glasgow and do the after part of the detox rather than just the detox. And I done the programme. And again, it was probably the best belly laughs I've had in a long time. That first initially doing a detox and actually getting to learn a little bit about myself and what they try and encourage you to build up for the tools that they try and kind of teach you that you would take on to kind of maintain your recovery. Loved it. Got to the kind of aftercare bit, and again, I didn't know at the time, but it's very subtle, you know, when you're caught up in addiction and what we're living with on a daily basis, and I convinced myself that I was all right to go home and was all right going to go and do this and do that, and successfully exited that place to go back to my old environment where I had done all my using for the get-go. It was like, as soon as I got off the bus, I was straight into the off licence. Again, I was a cracking smack addict, you know. This is all right. I can have a drink, but for me, I think it was an experience that maybe I needed, because I'm not saying that people can't drink, but I knew that I can't, because the minute I had that, I was just excessively doing it again, right back to where I was in my childhood, trying to get a maximum and couldn't put it down sort of thing, and I could just spiraled very quickly. I think I was very fortunate and lucky at the time, because within 5 days I was in intensive care with serious head injuries because of where my behaviours led after being under the influence of alcohol and back in that old environment and bumping into some old heads. God knows how it probably come about, like I'd, you know, all the money robbed. I don't know, you know how it goes. I think just what I was caught up in. Anyway, I got jumped, and as I say, I was kind of lucky because I was in hospital, I had head injuries because of that. But my thunder, I got up and I just realised that I'd made a massive mistake. I thought, why did I not go for the full relocation or whatever it was that was on offer that I chose to not go with and cut it and convince them that I was going to do everything positive and go back to my environment. And I put that to my funders, and they were like, right, we'll give you another chance. However, we're not going to send you back to the place that you've just left, and you need to go to this place that you were going to originally, because it was, as I say, it was only a few days of drinking alcohol, and it would have led, under no illusions, if I had never got the opportunity and I hadn't gone and seen the funders after that, I would have just been caught right back up in it. I would have went back to my mum's, and it wouldn't have just been a bit of drink, and it would have been back to my druggy choice, and then I would have been back consumed. The place that I chose to go to, or I should have been going to, didn't offer any fast track, quick programs. You couldn't go there and just do the aftercare. You had to go through the whole program, build the relationships with the peer groups, to go through the stages that I was wanting. So I got another set of funding, and as I say that, and then again, that's where I'm fortunate, because sometimes it's really funding's it's hard, and especially in some areas and other than most. But you know, you probably wouldn't get the opportunities like that, or it would be very hard. And then off I went with a week gap for doing like 7 months in this treatment centre, to that experience, how quick it got to the stage where it got to, when I was in hospital, and then off I was heading down south, first time. Like, you know, it's quite scary, like we having such a close family as well. I knew I was going down south, and I probably wasn't coming back, and again, because of the changes I knew I needed to make, because I knew I needed to change up my environment and start afresh. And I landed at this treatment centre, and do you know what? I could do you a whole video on that treatment centre. But what I ended up doing 22 months in that place. Again, they didn't make them how they make them, like, or the programmes are like scarce, but so time like that in a treatment centre, I don't know that many that do that for what I do in my line of work. In some places we use ourselves, but I'll tell you what, it was like, I think it's definitely been impacted on the changes I made, and the path and the person who I become, and my reflection on that time of change, and what was influential. Like, I just think basic stuff, man. You know, I was so caught up in these circles. You know, the way I respected myself, the way I respected relationships, and the structure and routine, you know, without getting carried. Because there was one experience of work, you know. My brothers, again, they gave me an experience of work by picking me up. For one time I was released from prison, and threw me a hard hat, high-vis vest and work boots, and carried me into their workplace. And I worked with them, kind of carrying me and loving me and supporting me through it for a few years, you know. I was on a prescription, I was just back to changing, like, but as I say, other than that experience, any structure or routine, I never had it, you know. I never had it. It was day to day, off the whim stuff. So to go to somewhere where it had a strict regime, you know, and it was voluntary as well, where I wasn't in prison, like, because obviously it's just not your choice then. I'd never had that. That long programme, man, like, at the end, as well, combined with the attempts, the previous attempts, you know, I believe that they were no wasted attempts. because that was also part of the learning, you know. I could get the distance, I could get the stability, I could put the drugs down, you know, with the structure, the routine, with the environments, whether it was residential, you're removed, but it was like tripping up, going back, what was I doing wrong, So that last attempt, because it was a peer-led programme that I had done in the end for that 22 months, and it was all about a community of peers. You supported one another, you run the community, you know, so yous were responsible for the departments, for the cooking, to the cleaning, the full shebang, building the relationships up and trusting someone that they're no trying to get more than you, you know, they're coming from a selfish, manipulative place. Over a long period of time, my learning was, I suppose, that like it was important, you know, it was important because even though I'd got the stability and I'd done it before, I never really grasped that anything I grasped the belonging to was in my addiction, using drugs. So for that, I got the period, I got the distance, and I never really felt part of anything. That made me realise that there was something I was felt part of that was outside of that thing that I felt part of, you know. I felt part of a supportive group, I had relationships. And this was off of that treatment centre that I'd come up to in Oxford that kind of drummed that into me, and what I'd learnt, you know, taking the responsibility and sharing what was going on in the head, man, you know, because some of the stuff that goes on in our heads, you know, and because it can still today, you know, but like I'm not got that and I'm not carrying that myself. I definitely learnt that for there. And I definitely, I thought, right, for the previous attempts, I'm keeping this, you know, I'm gonna nourish this and keep a hold of this. So that's what I done, you know, when I was left to my own devices without the structure there that I had to follow because of the programme I was in. And it was me on life's terms. I followed that on, you know. I kept that structure, I kept that routine, I kept building on the relationships. I definitely believe I'm a product of my environment, you know. I think we can learn loads, but whatever way that is, whether it's university, school, college, places like that, the school of life I call it, you know. You can learn loads, but then if you didn't apply it and you didn't follow it, that soon gets diluted, and you can revert back to what you know best because you've just you're comfortable because you've done it for years, you knew it for years. I kept that and I kept building on that, and I threw myself into what was an offer in the Oxford area, and I kept myself, I wanted to keep busy. I had to implement my own structure, I had to implement my own routine, I had to keep building on the relationships, and that's what I done. So I got involved like that because I was uneducated, you know, and I didn't know where I was going to fit in with work. And I got a wee basic job to start with. It was just in a hotel, like linen porter, you know, that basic, you know, just basically filling up the sheets, clean sheets for the housekeepers. But as I done that job and I started, it was again structure and routine, I felt like I just had a lot. I wanted to do more. I wanted to pursue more, and I got involved in voluntary work. But what I'm saying in that, it's not really what path you thought. It was the fact that I was just making sure I was busy, and I kept doing something that kind of made me feel like I had a purpose, and I wasn't sitting with too much thinking time. twiddling my thumbs, because for me, my learning was, with that, I'd make fucking wrong decisions that would take me back, and it would be subtle, you know. It wouldn't maybe be straight to the druggy choice, you know. It would be some environments I'd maybe be making decisions to put myself in, and certain people. So I didn't. I learned, and then I learned that last attempt that I wasn't doing that this time. And I suppose you hear these cliches in recovery and different platforms, but there's a lot of the same cliches in all platforms. Stick with the winners and you know, doing all that stuff. But that's fucking as simple as it is, really. That's what I done. You know, I stuck with the people that were rowing in that right direction, the ones that were encouraging me and inspiring. Another thing I learned that I carried is I never ever was able to get in touch with my emotions and talk about my feelings, you know. It wasn't the done thing, you know, in the environments that I was caught up in, and the circles I moved in. You didn't sit and smoke a bit of crack and then sit and talk about how you were feeling, or, you know, shoot up whatever it was, whatever substance it was, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what substance it is. You're still consumed by that substance, and you're in these isolated, sometimes no too good places, you know. But so when you were in there, you weren't talking about, oh, I feel like this and I feel like that. So being able to kind of be in touch with my emotions and my feelings, I realised it was important to be kind of talking about this stuff, you know, as I was going through them, and as I was learning them, and as I was developing them, because again, that was new to me. You know, I suppose you could go as well as say it is when I started taking the substances that I took, it suppressed all that. And here I was, a decade or over a decade, because I was in that, like, you know, I didn't go into it, like, because it would just be here. But that cycle was well over a decade, and here I was with all these raw emotions and feelings, and I was able to kind of talk about it. I continued to talk about it, you know. I continued to keep busy. There is many models of recovery and ways that people recover, but for me, I couldn't stop, you know. I had to do it in some way or another, or I was in trouble, man, you know. I needed to run my thinking past my peers, my other mates that I was in recovery that I trusted, you know, that they weren't going to try and divert it to what, and that's what I continued to do. That's what I continued to do, and that's what I continue to do today. These were some of the key lessons I learnt through all my attempts and that last stunt, you know, that treatment. Just keep busy, keep structure, keep routine, stick with the winners, and build the relationships that are positive. You know, I started from the bottom. So anybody that, I suppose this is me trying to say to anybody that doesn't believe in themselves, you know, like, I just got into some voluntary work to start with, and I was volunteering sometimes 2 days a week, you know, half a days, and I pursued that, and I got the opportunity to a job, and I got on the bottom of the ladder, you know, and I got into the work. The line of work where I'm working in treatment services, community services, commission services, that work with addicts that are still using, because I felt I had something to give there, you know. I could relate. I had empathy for where they're at, because I'd been there myself, and I started in that. And again, can you write? Can you spell? You know. And being supported to Microsoft Word, Google's a beautiful thing, autocorrect spelling, you know. There's a place for us, no matter how we feel, what our skill base is. There's supports, and we can do it, you know. We can do it. Like, there I was, bottom of what I felt, rock bottom, working, you know, paying rent, you know, the basic stuff, doing voluntary work, and then getting the opportunity in it, and it's excelled, you know. I'm going back like that was 10 years ago, I think. Yeah, 10 years, probably about 10 years ago actually. I got a job opportunity within community drug services, and I've had a job for 10 years. I've had a job for 10 years. Someone that couldn't hold anything down, you know. The same employers had me employed for 10 years, and I've progressed within that job role. And I love it, and again I've carried what I've carried through what I've learnt. The area I work in are people that are like, we're just trying to encourage them out the doorways, and that have walked like the same path as I walked, caught up in the same life, and just try to get them into treatment. And as I say, I love it. I love it because I recognise that you can be caught up in that for so long and no realise, like, because when I was caught up in that, I didn't really, I don't know, it was hard. How can I explain it without not seeing anyone outside my family that actually cared, you know? And then for me to be in a position where I can show an element of care, you know, I'm not trying to tell them what to do, only because of my experiences, you know. I'm not trying to tell them what to do or what paths they should follow. I can plant seeds, I can talk about experience and talk about doors that can be opened. Of course, that's my job, you know, and that's what I will do, but I'll also just give them time, you know, and hopefully they walk through the doors. So that's what my life's about today, and within my career. I'm still very busy, very structured, still involved in bits of recovery. For obviously myself, because I just feel like I just need to always have my foot, you know, and it's changed over the time, but I've always kept my foot in recovery. So I'll continue that. I keep doing that, you know. Again, sometimes it might be elements for my support for myself, just with life on life's terms, no, but fucking want to go and use drugs and that. I feel that I'm fucking removed. I feel removed. That's not attractive to me anymore. But sometimes life can be fucking hard work, man, you know, especially with the world we live in today. And I've got elements of that support, you know. That's what it supports me with, living life on life's terms. With a mad head that I still live with on a daily basis. I'm in a relationship that I've been in for a long time. Again, gone back on past, never been able to maintain that stuff, you know. Let's not get it twisted. Relationships can be hard work at times, you know. But like learning what I've learned, working through that stuff, recognising my parts. You know, you can go in the blame game. I didn't do that today, you know. I see what I can do better, you know, and I try and nurture it, and I try and make it and not give up, no, because that's another thing. I didn't quit easily, you know. Sometimes we'll quit because we want the easy way, but sometimes if you want something in life, it wasn't hard, it wasn't easy to get what I got in the end. I had to put some work into it. I do apply that into other areas of my life, and again, that's a beautiful thing I've got in my life today. Do you know, I met someone. She had children, but it's like my family, man. Like, and actually, I just had a granddaughter, and it's really nice to have that again. When I was caught up in the addiction, I'd look at all this stuff, families and relationships, and I just think I would never ever get there. But yet again, I'm here with a job, I'm here with a family, and also like, what can I do for myself? I'm always hungry, and it's crazy because I can be stuck in the same place. This is what I mean by I I used to procrastinate about gym. I used to procrastinate about passing my licence, like where I've done really good things in my life. So people were like, why do you not just do it? You know, because I probably wasn't putting my work into it. I wasn't applying myself. But the minute I apply myself, it's crazy on what can be achieved. You know, when I get a bit of belief for what I've learnt in the other areas, and that's been my experience. Again, it's all been like what I've got today. I used to have mates, even peers, and I keep, get in the gym, Mikey, get in the gym. Honestly, the well-being, I was consumed by my work and relationships. But now I'm doing it, and it's like, fucking, they're right. Again, the seeds that planted, but you never let grow, and then you realise, fucking, they were right. Because I love it, you know. And I'm doing that stuff, and it's part of my structure, it's part of my routine now. My licence, I didn't get it until I was 40, you know, and then again I put the work in, and I put the hard graft in, and it took me 4 times to pass my test. I didn't give up, you know, that attitude. And there I was driving, like, why did I not do this before? You know what, it's like, yeah, why did I not do it before? Who cares? I've done it, I've got it, I've achieved it, and it's always a hunger on what's next. And my hopes and for it's just not to give up that hunger, whatever area it lies in. And then whatever, like, I just try and kind of give it my best. And yeah, it's not always easy. I ain't going to sit here and say to anybody that's maybe looking at or watching this to get ideas about recovery. I'm not going to say it's the easy street, man. Yeah, but like, it's worth the work. You know, I've got a life beyond my wildest dreams, and I mean, what I mean by that is because my wildest dreams is when I was at my rock bottom and at my worst when I was 9, 8.5 stone, looking at this, thinking like, if only, you know, if only my life was like that. Well, it is like that today. For that place and thinking it was never fucking possible, out of my reach. I got it and I made it within my reach, you know. And I hold on to it with my fucking life because I know I'm under no illusions that there's some decisions and it can be made that go wrong, and it could take you back, you know. No matter how high you climb, there's always a fall, you know. Or not always a fall, there could be a fall. So I just what I hope for myself is I continue rowing in the direction that I'm rowing in. You know, I believe in it today. What I do and how I do it, I believe in it. I know I need to do it. Because if I don't, I put myself probably in a position where I could start rowing in a different direction, and I could start making the wrong decisions. And I've got a good understanding that the decisions might not be to pick up a drug or go to the most obvious to start with. But then they could roll out to be back into the environments and ruin the relationships that encourage that stuff, you know. So my hopes are that I just kind of keep, and I keep holding this my belief, and the drive to always better myself. You know, to always keep the motivation, to always keep the hunger, and not be too consumed about life stresses. And because, as I say, I'm not going to sit here and say it's all rosy, peachy and motivated all the time, because life at the best of times can be hard. And I just need to keep the hunger up, you know, and by doing the things I'm doing. So yeah, and I do believe the best is yet to come, man. You know, and that's a belief I've got.